We are live.
Yay! Happy Hump Day. Um, Before I forget, and sometimes I do, I am old new dude. He is,
Richard York, Astro's Trueborn son.
shout out to Charles if you're joining us. Appreciate it. Shout out to Lady Thistle. I was just talking to them on chat on Discord. Lady Thistle's got a lot on her plate, so uh, just hope she gets the time to take it easy and try not to be too hard on herself. But um, I was telling her I have no friends in real life, so my online friends when they're feeling anxious or having a problem, I take it very seriously, just because they're the only friends I have. So anytime they need to talk, please shout out on Discord. I'm usually available at all hours. But all right, we got Arya 7, which puts her even again with Tyrion. There it
Well,
has
happy to
to.
be
There's
here.
Charles. Um, he has a. I saw it the other day. He's did the. You remember the scene for? Hey Lizzie, uh, when Oberon and Elia Sand meets Tyrion and Cersei at the wedding, and Cersei's like, "I've never met a Sand before." The dress that she's wearing, that's what he made, and it's freaking beautiful. I mean, gorgeous. Hey, Sir Dave Zilla. Also, the Valencar had asked the other day when I was in the garage, had the banners behind me. He had asked where I got them, and I got them on Amazon. And the company that made them, they say Game of Thrones on it and everything. Um, but I ordered every one that they had available to where all my banners would match. I didn't want to get a banner from another company that looks completely different, a different style
Sure.
from those banners. So I just ordered every one they had. I'm missing some good ones. I don't got any Baratheon or Targaryen, but hey, you get what you get. All right, Arya 7. If you watched any of these before, you know we start with the brains of the operation, which is Richard. He will say what he saw in the chapter, and then I'll jump in with my stupid stuff. So take it away, Richard.
Thank you, sir.
Sorry.
So this is Clash Chapter 30, Arya 7. Arya names her first victim. Whatever names Heron the Black had meant to give his towers were long forgotten. They were called the Tower of Dread, the Widow's Tower, the Wailing Tower, the Tower of Ghosts, and Kingspire Tower. Arya slept in a shallow niche in the cavernous vaults beneath the Wailing Tower, on a bed of straw. She had water to wash in whenever she liked, a chunk of soap. The work was hard, but no harder than walking miles every day. Weasel did not need to find worms and bugs to eat, as Ari had. There was bread every day and barley stews with bits of carrot and turnip, and once a fortnight even a bite of meat. Hot Pie ate even better. He was where he belonged, in the kitchens, a round stone building with a domed roof that was a world unto itself. So part of this might be foreshadowing Arya's guilt at convincing them to leave, right? Because Hot Pie and Gender's sort of where they belong already.
Yeah.
He could never remember that she was now Weasel and kept calling her Ari, even though he knew she was a girl. Once he tried to slip her a hot apple tart, but he made such a clumsy job of it that two of the cooks saw. They took the tart away and beat him with a big wooden spoon. She fed him and helped him survive, and he's trying to return the favor, not nearly as
Yeah.
confidently.
Well, I mean, hot pie is not made for stealth. So
Uh, as for those she served with, she did not even want to know their names. That only made it hurt worse than they died. Now that's some foreshadowing.
yeah.
The talk was that Lord Tywin planned to restore Harrenhal to glory and make it his new seat once the war was done. I would say this was strange, but he does intend Harrenhal to rule over Riverrun and the Riverlands as the better half of one of the seven kingdoms. And he definitely intends his grandchildren to control the Iron Throne and multiple great houses.
Yeah.
So in a sense, the fact that he's literally wanting his family to take over multiple great houses, it's not that surprising that the Lord Paramount of the Trident would be, one of those that he might have had his eyes on. Hot
Yeah.
Pie is definitely not a sneak thief.
No, he yields.
So I know at first glance that sounds like that's ridiculous, but the reality is he really is trying to have multiple of the great houses
Yeah,
inherit. So it's not that far off from what he's trying to do.
yeah. Well, him returning Harrenhal to its previous, well, it's close to his previous conditions,
Right.
and the additional scrubbing that they're doing have to fix parts of the towers that aren't used and parts of the castle that hadn't been used. He's fixing it up, even though it's going to be given to the little figure. So I don't
Right.
know.
Right, but
I
at the
would
time, he wasn't expecting that. He may have been
right.
thinking, we know he's going to go on to decide that he wants to have his grandchildren take over, Winterfell and Castle Rock and the Iron Throne and maybe even Dorne, right? I mean, he's
Yeah.
definitely wanting some of the great houses.
Well, I mean, he's like placing was it Lancel to Derry? I mean, that
Well,
they
but that's
want.
not nearly the same, right?
Yeah, it's
That's
not
not nearly
nearly
the
the
same.
same as Harrenhal, but it's still one of the richer families in the Riverlands. Their lands are choice. I mean,
Right.
cattle.
And of course, part of the point of dairy is that bastards don't inherit, right? Because it's literally that there are claims through bastardry that exist, and therefore there's no claims, and that's
Yeah,
part of the point of dairy.
yeah. Dave Zilla.
Eventually, marrying into position with the phrase in River Run. Well, that's true too. He's got his sister with the phrases. That's
Yeah.
that's true. He actually is already taking over River Run, or will take over River Run. Yep.
Oh, quick shout out to Sanjay. He subscribed to the channel today. That put me at 77 subscribers. It's an extremely lucky number. So I appreciate it.
Yes. The holy number seven twice.
There you go. I'm gonna play the lottery today. See what happens.
All right. The topmost story was infested with nests of the huge black bats that House Went had used for its sigil. And there were rats in the cellars as well. And ghosts, some said, the spirits of Herod the Black and his sons. Arya thought that was stupid. Herod and his sons had died in Kingspire Tower. That was why it had that name. So why should they cross the yard to haunt her? The Wailing Tower only wailed when the wind blew from the north. And that was just the sound the air made, blowing through the cracks in the stones where they had fissured from the heat. If there were ghosts in Harrenhal, they never troubled her. It was the living men she feared, Lys and Sir Gregor Clegane and Lord Tywin Lannister himself, who kept his apartments in Kingspire Tower. Still, the tallest and mightiest of all, though lopsided beneath the weight of the slagged stone that made it look like some giant half-melted black candle. She wondered what Lord Tywin would do if she marched up to him and confessed to being Arya Stark, but she knew she'd never get near enough to talk to him, and anyhow, he'd never believe her if she did, and afterward Lys would beat her bloody. In his own small, strutting way, Weiss was nearly as scary as Sir Gregor. The mountain swatted men like flies, but most of the time he did not even seem to know the fly was there. Weiss always knew you were there, what you were doing, and sometimes what you were thinking. He would hit at the slightest provocation, and he had a dog who was near as bad as he was, an ugly spotted bitch that smelled worse than any dog Arya had ever known. There are definitely some Ramsay Reek and Ramsay's Hounds parallels here,
Yeah.
right?
Also, something the Kingspire Tower, um, still the tallest and mightiest of all, though lopsided beneath the weight of the slagged stone that made it look like some giant half melted black candle.
Black candle. Yeah, black
Um,
candle sounds like a
yeah,
city
yeah,
candle.
yeah, yeah. I know the haunted um, Harrenhal. Um, when stone is so hot that it melts, it turns into a magma type material and then cools,
Right,
which
which where
is
obsidian comes from.
right. So the haunting, could it be the black candle type stone that has been created
Right, I think
by?
it's, at a minimum he's got the symbolism and he's associating ghosts and you've got the wind from the north, which kind of reminds me of the ice dragon as well, right? And and
Yeah,
and the fact that she's going to consider herself the ghost of Harrenhal,
yeah,
right? A wind from the north, the ghost of I mean,
yeah,
I think there's some nice symbolism there too.
yeah. Well, I mean, I think the stone is probably um, uh, picking up Godspeak, the language on the wind, and like land did with the Rock, with the some of the, I mean, some of the voices and some of the things that are seen and all that stuff. could just be the castle itself um, accidentally picking up other things that it's not supposed to, and people not knowing how to interpret what the castle is seeing or something like that.
Sure. Pardon me, I burped. It took him only 3 days to earn the place of honor in her nightly prayers. Weiss, she would whisper, first of all. Dunson, Chiswick, Polliver, Raff the Sweetling, the Tickler and the Hound, Sir Gregor, Sir Amory, Sir Ilan, Sir Marin, King Joffrey, Queen Cersei. If she let herself forget even one of them, how would she ever find him again to kill him? On the road, Arya had felt like a sheep, but Harrenhal turned her into a mouse. Um, I feel like there's some circular logic in that argument about finding them again to kill them and so forth, but Arya's just a little kid.
I also think it's
And
funny that the gray mouse that she is now reminds me of the gray rats of the Maesters.
Oh, sure, sure.
The working internally working against the people that they're serving. She's working in her mind against.
And it's evocative of House of the Dragon, right? And the gray rats there, right? And as we're about to see, it's very evocative of how they're using the gray rats for the symbolism in the TV show. Because let's go and do it, because it's kind of a nice little segue to the next section here, right? And as lords and ladies never noticed the little gray mice under their feet, Arya heard all sorts of secrets just by keeping her ears open as she went about her duties. Pretty Pia from the buttery was the slut who was working away through every night in the castle. The wife of the jailer was with child, but the real father was either Sir Alan Stackspear or a singer called White Smile Watt. Probably White Smile Watt could be the way singers seem to work in the story. Lord Lefford made mock of ghosts at table, but always kept a candle burning by his bed. Sir Donover's squire George could not hold his water when he slept. The cooks despised Sir Harris Swift and spit in all his food. Once she even overheard Maester Tothbur's serving girl confiding to her brother about some message that said Joffrey was a bastard and not the rightful king at all. Lord Tywin told him to burn the letter and never speak such filth again, the girl whispered. King Robert's brothers Stannis and Renly had joined the fighting, she heard. And both of them kings now, we said. Realm's got more kings than a castle's got rats. Even Lannister men questioned how long Joffrey would hold the Iron Throne. The lad's got no army but them Goldcloaks, and he's ruled by a eunuch, a dwarf, and a woman, she heard a lordling mutter in his cups. What good will the likes of them be if it comes to battle? There was always talk of Beric Dondarrion. A fat archer once said the bloody mummers had slain him, but the others only laughed. Lorch killed the man at Rushing Falls, and the mountains slayed him twice. Got me a silver stag, says you don't stay dead this time neither. Arya did not know who bloody mummers were until a fortnight later, when the queerest company of men she'd ever seen arrived at Harrenhal. Beneath the standard of a black goat with bloody horns rode copper men with bells in their braids, lancers astride striped black and white horses, bowmen with powdered cheeks, squat hairy men with shaggy shields, brown-skinned men in feathered cloaks, a wispy fool in green and pink motley, swordsmen with fantastic forked beards dyed green and purple and silver, spearmen with colored scars that covered their cheeks, a slender man in septon's robes, a fatherly one in maester's gray, and a sickly one whose leather cloak was fringed with long blonde hair. At their head was a man stick-thin and very tall, with a drawn, emaciated face made even longer by the ropey black beard that grew from his pointed chin nearly to his waist. The helm that hung from his saddle horn was black steel, fashioned in the shape of a goat's head. About his neck he wore a chain made of linked coins of many different sizes, shapes, and metals, and his horse was one of the strange black and white ones. So we meet the goat and the bloody mummers. But let's talk about Zorses. Direwolves are real and extinct. Mammoths are real and extinct. Black and white tigers, what George calls shadow cats, are real and tend to be roughly 25% larger than orange tigers. Zorses and zebras are both very real animals and are somewhat different. If George wanted these to be more like the real animals known as zebras rather than the also 100% real animals known as Zorses, he would have called them zebras. He chose to refer to these animals with the 100% real name of the 100% real animals known in the 100% real world as Zorses. So we should probably assume that most of the differences between zebras and the real animals known as Zorses in the real world I'm not claiming George's Zorses are sterile mules. I'm just pointing out that George's Zorses probably resemble our Zorses more than our zebras. Maybe I'm being silly to dwell on this, but I get the feeling that there's a significant percentage of the fandom that thinks Zorses is a fantasy name for zebras. There are real mules in the real world called Zorses. And in general, in the real world, Zorses really do often possess the best quality of zebras and horses. This concludes my TED talk on the phases of the moon. I mean, on Zorses, sorry.
This is
I actually had it in there more in the notes, and I took some of them out, Lizzie.
Yeah, I'm sitting there reading. I'm watching, and it says, "Okay, you didn't say that 100. You didn't say that.
No,
You said that
no, I
100."
took some of them out because it was too many.
One thing. What's the guy's name? White Smile, whatever. Yeah, White Smile Wat. Could you think? Could that possibly be the seven strings, Tom seven strings? Because we know he tends to like he's in River Run, finding out things. He's
It's a learning podcast.
Yeah,
I have gone over the phases of the moon before, so yeah.
yeah. Seven strings, Thomas seven strings. He tends to go into places and learn stuff as a singer. So could that possibly be him in Harrenhal?
I don't know. I mean, I don't think he's with them right now, but yeah, who knows?
No.
Yeah, I thought about trying to go through each of those, the ones that we know and so forth. I mean, obviously, the easiest one is Kyburn, right?
Yeah.
And
Also,
Shagwell, and I can't remember the name of something, but we know.
Yeah. You know. Also, all this listening that Arya does seems to be beginning training to be a faceless man, because she does the same thing in Bravos.
Yes, the Zorses are mules. So I said that I'm not claiming that these are sterile mules like our Zorses. I'm just saying that I think we should be aware that they do look different, and so they're kind of cool looking. If you look up Zorses.
All right, Lizzie.
Well, I mean, obviously he's definitely had some experience with Edmure.
Yes, this is for sure.
I think he was a singer for Western House at some point. I believe Jamie mentioned him later. His aunt brought it White Smile walked to River Run, but I have no proof. I'm going from memory.
Yeah. I know he infiltrates.
We know Thomas Evans definitely has experience with River Run, and so you're asking if Thomas Evans could be here. I don't know. One of the things that I do think is worth noting about the Bloody Mummers is that there's a lot of the Thraki with them, right? And that means that the person who actually convinces the Thraki to cross the Narrow Sea is Tywin and the goat. In terms of first.
Have you heard the rumor or the theory that this is a sellsword company that Oberyn Martell began?
Now Toodles thinks that he formed the Storm Crows, I think, if I remember correctly. But yeah, there's lots of different theories out there as to which one is. You could see you could definitely see the second sons. It could be since he's the second son, you could see him being named potentially as well. So I've heard lots of different theories there.
Yeah.
Who are they? She asked. One of the soldiers laughed. The footman girl, Toes of the Goat, Lord Tywin's bloody mummers. Peas for wits, you get her flayed, you can scrub the bloody steps, said Weiss. They're sellswords, Weasel girl. Call themselves the Brave Companions. Don't use them other names where they can hear, or they'll hurt you bad. The Goat Helm's their captain, Lord Vargo Hope. Okay. I can only confirm the location of Dave of Six Strings. So a man who likes to cut off body parts might be important, at least to Jamie's plot.
Yeah.
Sir Harris Swift's squire was stabbed to death, and two of the bloody mummers were wounded. The next morning, Lord Tywin hanged them both from the gatehouse wall, along with one of Lord Lyden's archers. We said the archer had started all the trouble by taunting the sellswords of Barbaric Thunderian. After the hangmen had stopped kicking, Vargo Hoat and Sir Harris embraced and kissed, and swore to love each other always as Lord Tywin looked on. Arya thought it was funny the way Vargo Hoat lisped and slobbered, but she knew better than to laugh. So perhaps the most blatant error in my triplet Targaryen videos is me forgetting Harris Swift was Hand of the King. So I do like to note his mentions. In my defense, Cersei and Harris both seem to forget he was Hand, and Cersei replacing him arguably makes her more similar to her potential biological father. So strengthening my point.
Yeah.
Bolton will never cross, not till the young wolf marches from Riverrun with his wild Northmen and all them wolves. Arya had not known her brother was so near. Riverrun is much closer than Winterfell, but she was not certain where it lay in relation to Harrenhal. I could find out somehow. I know I could. If only I could get away. When she thought of seeing Rob's face again, Arya had to bite her lip. And I want to see Jon, too, and Bran, and Rickon, and Mother, even Sansa. I'll kiss her and beg her pardons like a proper lady. She'll like that. Weird that we never hear which company he started. We know he rode with Second Sons before starting the company. Because it's not Second Sons. I don't think we know which. More questions. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
Toodles
as George again.
Toodles right up on it's pretty good, I think. He said some. They might. I don't know if they're repeats that he just posts to Reddit or what. But he's had some pretty good stuff recently too. He's been. He has his Stannis one where Stannis is the tin soldier from the poem. It's pretty good. And he has Sausage Gate. He says in addition to Lemon Gate, he says I hope he's not responsible for the numbers. That would make my soul wilt.
Yeah.
He says that that Sausage Gate. If you look at the sausages, that there's some clues could potentially tie them to Dorne as Dany's childhood. They also are explicitly tied to Tyrosh though. So if anything, it could be symbolically. Or we keep saying this right, that the lemons are sort of symbolically from Dorne, but could be from Tyrosh, and that she could be she has her Tyroshi accent, and so the idea could be that she was born in Dorne and grew up in Tyrosh, right?
Yeah.
So I like the even Sansa line, right? Because we have similar thoughts about from Jon in his third chapter, where he said in the first book, he missed the girls too. Even Sansa, who never called him anything but my half brother, since she was old enough to understand what bastard meant. And Arya, he missed her even more than Rob, skinny little thing that she was, all scraped knees and tangled in hair and torn clothes, so fierce and willful. Arya never seemed to fit, no more than he had, and she could always make Jon smile. He would give anything to be with her now, to muss up her hair once more and watch her make a face to hear her finish a sentence with him. So anyway, just this even Sansa thing, which of course is sort of a backhanded compliment, right? Implying that you shouldn't miss them, but you still do, even her, right?
Yeah.
Kind of like how Stannis is basically insulting the cook when he says even the cook, right? He's insulting Janos more, but he's sort of insulting the cook there, right? He's implying that it's obvious that he shouldn't he shouldn't like the cook, right?
Right.
Anyway, Lord Tywin would soon march on Riverrun, she heard, or he would drive south to Highgarden. No one would ever expect that. No, he must defend King's Landing. Stannis was the greatest threat. He'd sent Gregor Clegane and Bargo Hoat to destroy Roose Bolton and remove the dagger from his back. He'd sent ravens to the Eyrie. He meant to wed the lady Lysa Arryn and win the Vale. He'd bought a ton of silver to forge magic swords.
Oh.
He was writing Lady Stark to make a peace. The Kingslayer would soon be freed. The ravens came and went every day. Lord Tywin himself spent most of his days behind closed doors with his war council. Arya caught glimpses of him, but always from afar. Once walking the walls in the company of 3 maesters and the fat captive with the bushy mustache. Once riding out with his lord's bannermen to visit the encampments, but most often standing in an arch of the covered gallery watching men at practice in the yard below. He stood with his hands locked together on the gold pommel of his longsword. They said Lord Tywin loved gold most of all, even shit gold, she heard one squire jest. The Lannister lord was strong-looking for an old man, with stiff golden whiskers and a bald head. There was something in his face that reminded Arya of her own father, even though they looked nothing alike. He has a lord's face, that's all, she told herself. She remembered hearing her lady mother tell father to put on his lord's face and go deal with some matter. Father had laughed at that. She could not imagine Lord Tywin ever laughing at anything. One thing I noticed there, he's meeting with multiple maesters, right? And we know that Pycelle was Grand Maester for a few months under Aegon the Fortunate, fifth of his name, right?
Yeah.
So a Lannister toady before Tywin, long before Tywin was handed a king, had gotten himself named as Grand Maester, right? Grand Maester of the Seven Kingdoms, I think he called himself, um, and so it's kind of interesting to think that maybe Tywin is in on some sort of Grand Maester conspiracy, right?
Right.
But anyway, Tywin could smile if Joanna were around, perhaps as a silent sister preparing corpses in King's Landing.
Well, I mean, I took it as him having the Lord's face might mean that there are times, especially with the hidden tunnel to go to the whorehouse. I mean, the Lord's face would, in my opinion, would indicate that there are times that he would take the Lord's face off and do other things.
Sure.
That the persona of Lord Tywin Lannister is just that. It's just one aspect that he.
I just thought of something.
What?
So we believe that, well, certainly Tywin is an incredible hypocrite, right?
Yeah.
And so Dave, yes, I wonder the same thing, right? It's really interesting that he's such a Lannister stooge who's there, for months under egg. He specifically says that for months under egg, he's Grand Maester.
Right.
So
with his hair gone
really
gray, with his hair gone gray and white, you can't tell exactly.
Right. So, one thing that I think is worth pointing out is in many ways Tywin sort of represents hypocrisy in the story. Like especially the most blatant one is when he says, "Even you, who watched me order hundreds of men rape your wife, wouldn't accuse me of ordering somebody to rape someone's wife, would you?" and then he goes, and then he also says, Jaime would never be so stupid as to fight without his helmet, and we've seen Jaime in one battle before he loses his hand, and he does not wear a helmet. But anyway, so if his name was Tysell, it would be too obvious, right?
I like that name.
But so Tywin, in a sense, kind of sort of represents hypocrisy, right?
Yeah.
And Arya is tying Tywin to Eddard, right? And Eddard is a man who thinks you should, mercy is never a mistake. You should look a man in the eye, and right.
Yeah.
What does he start up the story by doing? He beheads an oath breaker, right? He judges Jaime for oath breaking to stop the Mad King, right? So he's arguably as bigger a hypocrite than Tywin, who sort of represents hypocrisy in the story, and maybe that's part of the point of tying the two together.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's just a thought. I should have let the fire have them, Gendry said to. I should have listened. If she hadn't thrown them that axe, they'd all be dead. For a moment she was afraid, but they rode past her without a flicker of interest. Only Jaqen H'ghar so much as glanced in her direction, and his eyes passed right over her. He does not know me, she thought. Arya was a fierce little boy with a sword, and I'm just a gray mouse girl with a pail. Our characters are often wrong, although it does have certain. It does sort of remind me of Kat, studying.
Yeah, I was just thinking that.
Studying Jason boldly and seeing no recognition in his fierce eyes, right?
Yeah.
Anyway. She yawned. Dunson, Chiswick, Polliver, Raff the Sweetling, the Tickler and the Hound, Sir Gregor, Sir Amory, Sir Ilyn, Sir Meryn, King Joffrey, Queen Cersei. She thought she might add 3 more names to her prayer, but she was too tired to decide tonight. Arya was dreaming of wolves running wild through the wood when a strong hand clamped down over her mouth like smooth, warm stone, solid and unyielding. She woke at once, squirming and struggling. A girl says nothing, a voice whispered close behind her ear. A girl keeps her lips closed. No one hears, and friends may talk in secret. Yes. Heart pounding, Arya managed the tiniest of nods. Jaqen H'ghar took his hand away. The cellar was black as pitch, and she could not see his face even inches away. She could smell him, though. His skin smelled clean and soapy, and he had scented his hair. A boy becomes a girl, he murmured. I was always a girl. I didn't think you saw me. A man sees, a man knows. She remembered that she hated him. You scared me. You're one of them now. I should have let you burn. What are you doing here? Go away or I'll yell for Weiss. A man pays his debts. A man owes three. Three? The bread god has his due, sweet girl, and only death may pay for life. This girl took three that were his. This girl must give three in their places. Speak the names, and a man will do the rest. He wants to help me, Arya realized with a rush of hope that made her dizzy. Take me to Riverrun. It's not far. If we stole some horses, we could. He laid a finger on her lips. 3 lives you shall have of me. No more, no less. 3 and we are done. So a girl must ponder. He kissed her hair softly, but not too long. It's always 3 wishes in the stories.
Yeah. Well, I mean, George has got those. I mean, there's certain numbers that George likes, and there's certain numbers in this story that mean something. 3, 7, 12. I mean,
Yep. When she closed her eyes, she saw faces swimming before her. Joffrey and his mother, Ellen Payne and Meryn Tramp and Sandra Clegane, but they were in King's Landing, hundreds of miles away. And Sir Gregor had lingered only a few nights before departing again for more foraging, taking Wrath and Chiswick in particular with him. Sir Amory Lorch was here, though, and she hated him almost as much. Didn't she? She wasn't certain. And there was always Weiss. Arya's trying to be logical and smart with her choices.
Yeah. She fails.
And Arya lets loose the ghost of Harrenhal. But who does he owe the deaths to? Many-faced God? Yeah, it's really weird that he's I mean, and part of it's he's trying to play a character, I guess, but
yeah.
But it's always struck me as odd that he's so R'hllor focused when he should be many-faced God focused, and maybe George just hadn't nailed down the many-faced God at this point.
Yeah. Well, I mean, he's he's changing the basics of the Faceless Man just to where Jaqen H'ghar owes Arya these 3 deaths. I mean, he's bending the rules a little bit just to where we have
he bends them a lot. Like he does not follow the rules. Like
no.
He even tells her, "No, I would kill my own father. It doesn't matter how well I know these people, right? We know that the Faceless Men claim that matters, and he makes it clear that it doesn't matter to him."
Yeah. I mean, there's certain theories out there that pointed out that Jaqen H'ghar is breaking so many Faceless Men rules and all this stuff that he must be on his own journey that's different from the Faceless Men. I think it's just George bending the rules to get that story between Jaqen H'ghar and Arya in the story, which I mean, it's
maybe
really
not even having the rules yet, right? I mean, because most of what we see of him bending the rules is before he's established what the rules are.
Right. Because it's another book or 2 before we get the House of Black and White.
Right.
So, yeah.
But she didn't think she could trust Jaqen. I should kill them myself. Whenever her father had condemned a man to death, he did the deed himself with ice, his greatsword. You would take a man's life, you owe it to him to look him in the face and hear his last words, she'd heard him tell Robin John once. Arya got the lesson. I would love if he's a faceless man gone rogue. I'd watch that side quest.
Yeah.
Weasel, go up and ask if they've got any clothes that need mending. I'll have the woman see to it. Arya ran up her well-scrubbed steps. No one paid her any mind when she entered. Chiswick was seated by the fire with a horn of ale to hand, telling one of his funny stories. She dared not interrupt unless she wanted a bloody lip. After the hands tourney it were, before the war come, Chiswick was saying. We were on our ways back west, 7 of us with Sir Gregor. Wrath was with me and young Joss Stillwood. He'd squired for Sir in the lists. Well, we come on this Pisswater River, running high on account there'd been rains. No way to ford, but there's an alehouse near, so there we repair. Sir rousts the brewer and tells him to keep our horns full till the waters fall, and you should see the man's pig eyes shine at the sight of silver. So he's fetching us ale, him and his daughter, and poor thin stuff it is, no more in brown piss, which don't make me any happier, nor Sir neither. And all the time this brewer is saying how glad he is to have us, custom being slow on account of them rains. The fool won't shut his yap, not him. The Sir is saying not a word, just brooding on the night of pansies and that bugger's trick he played. You can see how tight his mouth sits. So me and the other lads, we know better than to say a squeak to him. With this brewer, he's got to talk. He even asked how my lord fared in the jousting. Sir just gave him this look. Chiswick cackled, quaffed his ale, and wiped the foam away with the back of his hand. Meanwhile, this daughter of his stood fetching and pouring, a fat little thing, 18 or so. 13 more like, Raffles Sweetling drawled. Well, be that as it may, she's not much to look at, but Egan's been drinking and gets to touching her, and might be I did a little touching myself, and Rapp's telling young Stillwood that he ought to drag the girl upstairs and make himself a man, giving the lad courage, as it were. Finally, Joss reaches up under her skirt. She shrieks and drops her flagon and goes running off to the kitchen. Well, it would have ended right there, only what does the old fool do but he goes to Sir and asks him to make us leave the girl alone, him being an anointed knight and all such. Sir Gregor, he wasn't paying no mind to none of our fun, but now he looks, you know how he does, and he commands the girl be brought before him. Now the old man has to drag her out of the kitchen, and no one to blame but himself. Sir looks her over and says, so this is the whore you're so concerned for, and this besotted old fool says, my Elena's no whore, sir, right to Gregor's face. Sir, he never blinks, just says, she is now, tosses the old man another silver, rips the dress off the wench, and takes it right there on the table in front of her dial, her flopping and wiggling like a rabbit, making these noises. The look on the old man's face, I laughed so hard ale was coming out my nose. Then this boy hears the noise. The son, I figure, comes rushing up from the cellar, so Raff has to stick a dirk in his belly. By then, Sir's done, so he goes back to his drinking, and we all have the turn. Pobbet, you know how he is. He flops her over and goes in the back way. The girl was done fighting by the time I had her. Maybe she decided she liked it after all, though to tell the truth, I wouldn't have minded a little wiggling. And now there's the best bit. When it's all done, Sir tells the old man that he wants his change. The girl wasn't worth a silver, he says. And damned if that old man didn't fetch a fistful of coppers, beg my lord's pardon, and thank him for the custom. The men all roared, none louder than Chiswick himself, who laughed so hard at his own story that snot dribbled from his nose down into his scraggy gray beard. Arya stood in the shadows of the stairwell and watched him. She crept back down to the cellar without saying a word. When Weiss found that she hadn't asked about the clothes, he yanked down her breeches and caned her until blood ran down her thighs. So Arya closed her eyes and thought of all the sayings Ciri had taught her, so she scarcely felt it. So this woman was gang raped, and it's kind of reminiscent of Taisha, right?
Yeah.
Hey everyone, just wanted to say good morning. It's Devoted to Mariah.
Hey, Devoted.
Sometimes known as NXS is the best band or whatever, right? Arya leaned close and whispered Chiswick right in Jaqen's ear. The Lorathi gave no sign that he had heard. Nothing happened the next day nor the day after, but on the third day, Arya went to the kitchens with Weiss to fetch their dinner. One of the mountain's men fell off a wall walk last night and broke his full neck, she heard Weiss tell ACoK. Drunk? The woman asked. No more unusual. Some are saying it was Heron's ghost flung him down. He snorted to show what he thought of such notions. It wasn't Heron, Arya wanted to say. It was me. She had killed Chiswick with a whisper, and she would kill 2 more before she was through. I'm the ghost in Harrenhal, she thought, and that night there was one less name to hate. On the third day, Arya's word was fulfilled in accordance with the scriptures. Ha ha ha, exactly, says Devoted to Mariah. Hey, says Lady Thistle. Morning, says the heir of House Tyrell. Good morning, says Lizzie. Good to have you here.
With that first name, you can see Arya's not bravery, but her courage slowly growing, becoming more than just a gray mouse. She's something to be feared, which gives her strength. I mean, she's
right.
Pretty...
And Gray Area has pointed out that the Ghost of Highheart thinks she's the ghost of Lyanna, right? If you realize that that's what the Ghost of Highheart is thinking, it kind of changes that interaction a little bit. You kind of realize, oh yeah, that is different, right?
Yeah.
So the implication being that I think there's in that video she goes through all the hints that most of what the ghost tells us about is the death of kings.
Yeah.
That Rhaegar was going. Her resolution hardens and she whispers the name, leveled up. Arya's so brave. She deals with horrors most adults can't process. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So we know that Rhaegar would go to Summerhall, right? And then he would come back and with new songs about the deaths of kings, I think is the term we use. And we see that the deaths of kings is mostly what the ghost talks about, right?
Right.
So while Barristan speculates that he saw something in the scrolls, it seems quite likely that the actual prophecies he was getting were coming from the ghost of High Heart, right?
Yeah.
And and um, and so the ghost of High Heart feeling guilty about seeing Lyanna's ghost, which is to say Arya,
Hmm.
um, would imply that she knows that her prophecies set into motion the war and Lyanna's death, right?
Right.
Sansa gets grossed out when Arya bites her lip. Imagine her hair and all.
I've said it before, and I'll say it again. The daughters of Eddard Stark were perfectly made for the path that was before them. Arya,
Yeah,
to her path to the Faceless Men, and Sansa, using her courtesies as armor for the path that was laid before her. I don't think if you swapped them and they had each other's path, they wouldn't survive. I mean, I don't think Sansa could do the walking miles, and I mean, just the horrors that Arya sees. Even though Sansa has a really hard path herself, is a different kind of horror. It's a different kind of um, Arya's is more grounded. The ground level horrors of war that she sees, and Sansa is more of the torment from Joffrey. The she's still at the Red Keep. She sees a different kind of horror. But I don't think the if you swapped them, either both of them would be dead. Arya would be fighting back with Joffrey, and Joffrey'd have her head, something like that. And Sansa could not handle all the shit that Arya sees. Um, it would be beneath her. I mean, she wouldn't be. I mean, I don't know. Sorry.
absolutely. Absolutely. And Devoted to Mara says, perfectly said. She was a Winterfeller needed right now.
Yeah.
So up next is Catelyn 3. Renly enjoys a peach and prays with Loras, or maybe the other way around.
Yeah, that's one of my favorite. I mean, Jamie in the bathtub telling Brienne about the day he killed the Mad King. Should
And
start.
the literal shit Arya deals with.
The peach scene with the Baratheon brothers. It's one of my favorite scenes in the books. They do a pretty good job in the show, but in the books, it's freaking awesome.
Arya at court. Stick, bathe her, stick her in silks, tape her mouth shut, and hope for the best. Ah. So we have to
Arya
keep
might
our eyes
not
open.
last long at court, but it would be extremely funny. The stuff that would come out of her mouth at court.
So keep your eyes open in this next chapter for. I think Renly may actually have taken all the cavalry, sort of like Rob. I love Jamie so much. Yeah, I
Exactly.
mean, we're big fans of the growth arcs here, right? The Sansa, Theon, and Jamie are the ones that we see like getting better and better as they progress, at least eventually. Right? Maybe not getting better initially, but eventually they're getting better and better. And
Yeah.
so we really appreciate the growth arcs. And I think I speak for both of us with that. At least Peach was in his King's Guard. Exactly. Charles will go to his grave dreaming of Renly's Peach. It does make you wonder if Stannis ought to be killed by Brienne and her triple vow. I swear it, I swear it, I swear it. Because um, how is he going to go to his grave thinking of the Peach if it's not we all?
Yeah.
If it's not Brienne, but I do think that the pattern that we see is that the person is like most devoted to people and sworn to them like a Kingsguard with loyalty and so forth, and so on,
Yeah.
who betrays them in the end. So it does feel like it should be one of the either Davos or his son. So juicy. So in order in order to follow the pattern that we see in the books, it really should be, and I think part of that point is probably to tie into the concept of the marriage vow being the most holy vow, and bigamy and betrayal and so forth,
Yeah.
right? And um, so I think that's part of what's happening there, um, and part of why I actually think he really may have told Dan and Dave that Danny would be betrayed by John, or somebody sworn to her like that. Um, it feels like there should be something that fits the pattern that happens at the end of the story.
Yeah. I mean, I'm all for Brienne. I know there's a lot of Stannis fans out there and Stannis the Manus and all this stuff. Um,
Mhm.
the second that he basically okayed Mel to kill his brother, I'm done with the guy after that. Kind of.
Yeah, but you were done with Jamie, and then you come to like him.
Yeah, I know, but
But we're not going to
Stannis.
see Stannis have that kind of growth arc, I don't think.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah. I mean,
so
Stannis
I
hasn't
mean,
grown on me since that point. There's nothing that
well,
he's done.
he's supposed to be the Mad King, right? I mean, the three things before the war that happens that sets off the war are let's see how they match up with Stannis.
Yeah,
So, burning your own hand to the king, Jack.
yeah,
Sending your fire sorcerer advisor to use their magic to kill a person who's expecting to fight against your champion, Jack.
yeah.
Ordering politically untenable executions. Stannis, I burned his brother Baratheon, is the one who orders the executions. So yeah.
Yeah.
Boo, no peach for
No
Stannis.
sense. Doesn't like Kingslaying.
Kinslaying, yep.
Nah.
No, indeed. Like
Yeah, definitely don't like Kinslaying. Like show
well,
bird.
but you're not totally against Tyrion, are you?
Me?
I like to
Well, I mean,
right. Kinslaying doesn't automatically make you dislike a person.
well, it's like before. I mean, we've said it before.
He killed Shay. If you're gonna hate him for something, hate him for killing Shay.
Yeah. Well, like I said, but we give people passes. The characters that we like, we give passes. Well, if we agree that guy needed to die, so you're fine. Tywin.
Well, Sir Dave, yeah, I agree with you. I like the show version a bit, but I don't actually see Brienne and Stannis being near one another anytime soon in the book. Yeah, and it really ought to be one of the C words. It really should, right? Because that kind of and who's squiring for him, right? I mean, that's I could see that being the parallel, right? That he's going to cross over into desperation, wanting a blood sacrifice that he believes will give him the power of dragons, as Mad King believed, right? And so you do have to wonder if maybe Shireen will even be saved, right? Because the Mad King didn't get to do his giant blood sacrifice that he intended to do, that he believed would transform him into a dragon, right?
Right.
Because somebody sworn to him, betrayed him, and stabbed him. So maybe Shireen will be saved. I think Stannis will give the order, and maybe I don't know. I have some minor hope that one of the C words will stab Stannis and prevent it from going. But anyway, I'm probably delusional, but I hold out a shred of hope.
I mean, look, with George, anything is possible. I mean, that's just it. The books can go any direction. Everybody that's been, I mean, nobody's 100% right on what their theories are with the book. So I mean, George, it's up to George. Whatever fancies his interest that day will probably determine the direction it goes in the books. So
maybe we'll be more right than people think, though. That's
I mean,
I think we will, but anyway.
Yeah, hey, everybody that has a theory thinks their theory is the correct one.
Of course, it's our interpretation of these deliberately ambiguous books that. And as I've said, I believe that George believes there's multiple correct answers, and that the books are deliberately ambiguous, and that when he tells you one answer is correct, it doesn't actually rule out the other answer also being correct.
Yeah. Like I said, it's not a fantasy story. It's a detective story, and we're the detectives.
and they find Stannis dead and alone, and rob onion shoved into his clenched jaw. I honestly think Stannis is going to be a cockroach that nobody can get rid of. I think he ends up being Lord Commander on the wall. Yeah, I've heard that theory.
Yeah, I can see that. I mean, I definitely can see that. You got anything else, man?
Nope, I think that's funny.
All right. Friday.
Oh, I did want to say, yeah, keep your eyes open. So I think it's the Nauticast that has argued that that Renly had outrun his supplies, right? So he's like Rob. He sort of heads off with the cavalry and leaves behind the foot.
Yeah.
And so his army's actually not that big when he gets to Stannis.
No.
And Stannis has been doing some prep work, and so there's some clues that he may have laid some traps. Specifically, he may actually have laid like pit kind of traps, perhaps meaning to parallel with the
lake,
the night lamp theory, which is actually by the guy I sent you the links to.
I can't remember the name.
I got his name again. Oh man. Oh well. Anyway, he's pretty known for having sort of pioneered the night lamp theory, and he's also got some other interesting theories, like his theory that Mance Rayder is now glamored as Ramsay and so forth, right?
Yeah. Anyway. All right. Well, Friday and Monday. Monday will be our last live stream until after IceFireCon.
I just need a host to read first through the ice.
That's one of. I mean, isn't that the battle that they made him cut from the book to go into the next book to shorten the book? Was the Battle of Ice?
I don't know, maybe.
Oh, but yeah, I can't wait.
I think there were a few things that they moved. And it might have been multiple battles, right? Maybe.
Yeah, but I'm pretty sure Battle of Ice was one of the ones that he had to cut to go into the next book to shorten it down. But thanks guys.
1 week.
Yes, I know. This time next week I'll still be driving in a car to Ohio, 9-hour drive, which with me it'd probably take about 12. But that's good. All right, Friday is Cat 3, and then. Goodness. Before we know it, IceFireCon is going to be here. I mean, I know we're getting closer and closer. Lady Thistle is stressing. So send out as much love to Lady Thistle as possible. So, well, we'll see everybody. I appreciate everybody that jumped in today.
Yeah,
Charles,
great to see everybody.
Shout out to Sanji, to my 77th subscriber. But we'll see. Yeah, definitely. Appreciate it, Charles. We'll see y'all Friday at same bat time, same bat channel. And y'all take care. Richard, I appreciate it. Y'all have a good one. Take it easy.
Thank you.
All right. Bye.